I'll talk to you after the race. Good luck.
Palm City might be hosting a glorious ode to street racing with the Speed Hunter Showdown Championship, but as you'd expect, there's a seedy underbelly to the competition in a Need for Speed game. Once the sun goes down, all the bets are off. Or is it that they're on? Well, either way, the Jekyll and Hyde duality of Need for Speed Heat really reveals itself as you switch from night to day racing. With the game due out in less than a month on the 8th of November, we got to spend some extended hands-on time with its opening before jumping later into the game with some faster cars. It starts off simply enough, as your freshly minted character, where you have a choice of 12 to play dress up with, wanders into Lucas's garage, looking to buy a car and do some racing with it. Apparently he's doing a pretty good trade right now, but you won't get far in the well-maintained older generation cars that you can initially choose from. I mean, they don't even have nitrous. It's no real surprise that I settle for a position in the mid-pack for my first race, and my second race, and maybe even my third race as well. Your car and how it stacks up to the competition is a major factor in how well you're going to do, even if you can punch above your weight against the AI. But most importantly, there's no rubber banding in this game. If you've got a much faster car, you will blaze off into the distance, as I did on several occasions. But if you're underpowered, then you will have a real fight on your hands. And I'm sure I can blame some of my own driving for some of this as well. As we dug into with our Gamescom preview, the world design philosophy has shifted away from creating a world and then shoving a bunch of races into it. It's instead the other way around, where they've created the racetracks and built a world to bind them all together. With that, there's more sweeping curves to drift through, there's wider roads to weave down, and a focus on destructible environments that slow you down but don't bring you to a dead stop. In other words, it's all about being much more free-form and flowing in its design. Off-roading also makes a meaningful return, which can be fairly important at times, as we'll get onto in a little bit. An altered facet of the car handling is that instead of tapping the brake to drift, you now quickly release and pull on the accelerator to do so instead. It takes a little while to get used to this though, not least figuring out how to find nuance instead of an all-or-nothing drift that careens you into the road barriers and scenery, but this is still an arcade racer that is generally fairly easy to pick up and play. You can really customize the cars and their driving style to suit you as well. As you work through the career, you'll naturally fill your garage with a wide variety of cars, but they're no longer pigeonholed into a single style of driving. If you prefer drift cars, you can take any vehicle and, while it might not originally be a drift-happy car, bend it to your will through the extensive upgrade system. You've also, for the first time, got the customizable characters, where you can swap out their clothing so that you've got a distinctive look in your game's cutscenes. But where Need for Speed Heat really gets interesting is in the risk-reward of racing at night. Now you're not racing in sanctioned events with well-defined routes, but more slapdash races outside the law. The circuits are noticeably more meandering, they can throw in little off-roading sections or more ostentatious routes that have you leaping over rivers, and you'll notice a spot of oncoming traffic in there as well, which you'll have to dodge around. Instead of racing for bank, you're now looking to earn rep, hoping to make a name for yourself and earn the right to unlock new vehicles and car parts, not just the money for them. And you will have to engage with both sides of the game in order to progress. Of course, the more you race at night, the more the cops will take notice and start to come after you, but compared to the Gamescom demo, it's actually surprisingly subdued to start with. You might see a cop car on the minimap, you might get tagged if they spot you, and the game will be like, oh, they're in pursuit. But it's a bit like trying to catch Usain Bolt while he's got a head start on you. It just isn't going to happen. That's by design though. When you start out at night, your heat level is low and you can quite easily race, potentially even without seeing a cop car. But after 3 or 4 events, the cops will start to appear in greater numbers. Your heat level rises, the patrols become much more likely to catch your racing, and they'll be much more difficult to shake off your tail because the bounding circle around you is much wider. As we found at Gamescom, and eventually after sticking with some night racing at this event, it can be quite the ordeal when it's amped up to the full, and you can't simply try to outpace the cops but have to break the line of sight much more creatively. That's where off-roading comes in, because if you've got an off-road car, it will handle much better whilst burning a trail through a park, for example. Switching between the night and day is simple and fast. You open the map and click on an analog stick to trigger a neat world-flipping animation. Or at least you do that during the day. At night you need to get back to a safe house to secure your reputation, and it then automatically chucks you into the daytime again. And that can throw a bit of a spanner into the works when trying to join up with another player online. Ghost Games would really like you to play with other players in Need for Speed Heat one way or another. You can play in single player offline if you want to, but this is meant to be an online game with other racers running around the same world as you are, and you might bump into them as you're going about your business. Additionally, there's the new cruise system, where a bunch of players can join up together and pool their resources and progress to unlock some additional rewards. Ghost Games are so intent on this facet though that they're going to engage you with this whether you like it or not. Every player is going to get chucked into a starter crew. From there, they hope that you'll see the benefits of playing together with other people, and maybe you set out to start your own crew with your own friends if you really want to do that instead. And so you'll start to see your friends and your crewmates progress out in the open world with the crew time trials, which is a bit of a rebranding and a repurposing of the classic autolog system that first made its appearance in Need for Speed Hot Pursuit almost a decade ago now. Through the clan menu, you can take on events that your buddies have already set times on, for example, bouncing over a route through a golf course or riding the monorails in a car. But you can also simply find them out in the open world and engage with them there as well. That side of things is all asynchronous, but you can also buddy up in real time and race all but the main story missions with other players. That's where things could potentially start to get a tad confusing, as you might find yourself in a different time frame and unable to join each other. It's just a click for a day racer to switch to night, but remember that it might be a bit of a pain in the arse in the opposite direction. It took a little while for me and my fellow racers to twig quite what was going on at the preview event and join up together. All in all though, I had a good bit of fun with the game for the few hours that I got to spend with it. Need for Speed Heat checks a lot of boxes for a lot of prospective fans. There's a gorgeous world to race in and through, it's easy to pick up and play, there's new depths to the car customization, and when it comes to the actual racing, there's a little bit of something for you whether you want a pure racing during the day, cop chases at night, drifting, off-roading, solo, online play. It covers all of the bases, and maybe that runs the risk of being a bit of a jack of all trades and master of none, but we'll have to wait for our final review when the game comes out in a little bit under a month. Thanks as ever for checking out our video. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. Head over to the6thAxis.com for our preview there as well, and you can also check out our Gamescom coverage of this game. But before you go, make sure you like, subscribe and share, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye!
Some nights, it's just about enjoying yourself, right?